title, the empress who ruled an empire through her addicted husband. Tonight we begin with something a little different. We're unrolling a scroll not of battles and dates, but of whispers, ambition, and the quiet, often lonely heart of an empress. We're journeying to 19th century China, into the very heart of the Forbidden City, to walk in the silk-shod footsteps of a woman who would come to rule a quarter of the world's population. Forget the grand political histories for a moment. We're here for the story behind the throne, the soft rustle of a sleeve that could signal a promotion or a death sentence. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The jolting of the cart finally ceases. For hours, the rhythmic clatter of wheels over stone has been your only companion, a constant reminder of every mile that separates you from the life you once knew. The air itself has changed. It was once filled with the scent of your family's home, of familiar cooking and the wild blossoms in the fields. Now it is thick with the dust of 1,000 converging roads, the smell of coal smoke, and something else, an undercurrent of incense and power that is uniquely Beijing. You're 16, and you are here. A hand, dry and impersonal, pulls back the curtain of your enclosed cart. You blink against the sudden light, your eyes tracing the impossible height of the gate before you. It is the gate of divine might, the northern entrance to the Forbidden City. The walls are a deep imperial vermilion, so high they seem to hold up the sky itself. They are not just walls of stone and plaster, they are walls of silence, of secrets, of history. You take a slow, steadying breath, the crisp air doing little to calm the frantic fluttering in your chest. You are Yehanara of the Nala clan, a name that felt so important, so full of lineage, just a week ago. Here, it feels like a single grain of sand on an endless shore. With a gentle nudge from a guard, you step down from the cart. Your feet, unbound in the Manchu tradition, feel small and uncertain on the immense flagstones. This detail, the freedom of your feet, is a mark of your heritage, separating you from the Han Chinese women with their bound lotus feet. It is one of the first of a million distinctions you will have to learn and navigate. You join a line of other girls, all robed in fine but simple silks. Their faces a mixture of awe, terror, and carefully concealed ambition. These are your sisters in this strange new life, and they are also your rivals. You don't dare meet their eyes for more than a fleeting moment. You have already learned that in a place like this, a glance can be misinterpreted as a challenge. Led by a phalanx of silent eunuchs, you pass through the gate. The world outside, noisy and chaotic, vanishes. Inside is a sudden, profound quiet. It is not the quiet of peace, but the quiet of immense, disciplined order. Your soft shoes make no sound on the polished stones of the vast courtyard. Every building is perfectly symmetrical, every roof corner upturned in a graceful curve, guarded by mythical beasts frozen in ceramic. The scale of it is meant to make you feel small, to impress upon you the absolute power of the man who lives at its center, the emperor, the son of heaven. You walk, and you walk. Through courtyard after courtyard, down long covered corridors painted with intricate landscapes and dragons. No one speaks. The only sounds are the whisper of silk, the distant chime of a bell, and the soft rhythmic tread of your own procession. You feel 1,000 unseen eyes upon you, from the guards standing like statues, to the eunuchs who glide by like ghosts, to the court ladies who watch from behind latticed windows. One can only imagine what was truly said when the drawing room doors were finally closed. You are finally led into a smaller, more intimate courtyard, away from the grand imperial axis. This is the area of the inner court, the domain of the women. Here, you are assigned to your new home. It is not a grand palace, not yet. It is a modest set of rooms in one of the side halls. A senior palace maid, her face a mask of polite indifference, shows you inside. The room is beautiful, of course. Everything is beautiful here. A carved wooden bed, draped in gossamer silk. A polished table with a set of brushes and an inkstone. A single, delicate porcelain vase holding a sprig of plum blossom. But the beauty is cold. The window looks out not onto an open field, but onto another wall. The door doesn't have a lock you control. You realize with a gentle shock that this is not just a room, it is a cell, albeit a very pretty one. Your life is no longer your own. It belongs to the palace. It belongs to the emperor. That evening, the senior maid, whose name is Malin, instructs you on the essentials. Her voice is low and even, betraying no emotion. You will rise when the morning drum sounds, she says, not looking at you, but at a point on the wall just past your shoulder. You will not speak unless you are spoken to by a superior. You will not make eye contact with the emperor, the empress, or the senior consorts unless given explicit permission. She goes on, a litany of rules so complex and layered it makes your head spin. How to bow, how deep to bow depending on the person's rank, how to accept a cup of tea with two hands, never one, how to refer to yourself always in the third person as this servant. Not exactly a system designed for casual conversation. It's a humbling realization that your entire existence has been reduced to a set of protocols. Malin explains your starting rank, Guiren, or noble lady. It is a respectable starting point, the 5th of 8 ranks, but far from the pinnacle of power. There is the Empress, of course, the celestial partner to the dragon throne, then the imperial noble consort, then noble consorts, consorts and concubines, before your own station. Below you are 2 more levels of ladies-in-waiting. Each rank comes with a specific allotment of silk, of silver, of servants, of meals. The entire Forbidden City runs on this rigid, unbending arithmetic of status. A promotion means more than just favour. It means better food, warmer clothes, a life of greater ease. A demotion is a slide into irrelevance and hardship. As she speaks, you notice how she never truly seems to stop moving. Even when standing still, her hands are arranging a fold in her sleeve or adjusting a pin in her hair. It's a habit born of decades in a place where idleness is suspicious. Here, even stillness must be productive. Later, alone for the first time as the sun sets, you watch the light turn the yellow-tiled roofs to gold. The silence of the night is different. It's punctuated by the striking of a wooden clapper by the night watchman, a lonely sound that echoes through the empty courtyards. You think of your family, picturing them in your mind. Will you ever see them again? In a way, the girl they knew is already gone, left behind at that great vermilion gate. You have been remade into something new, a noble lady, a title that feels as strange and ill-fitting as the stiff, formal robes you now wear. You lie down on the bed, the silk cool against your skin. The mattress is hard, filled with packed reeds, a far cry from your soft bed at home. You are just one of dozens of new arrivals, one of hundreds of women living within these walls, all with the same singular purpose, to please the emperor. It feels like an impossible lottery. How could anyone ever notice you? You have no great family connections to speak of, no vast wealth to pave your way with gifts. All you have is your wits, your beauty, and a spirit that has not yet been broken by the sheer, soul-crushing weight of this place. You stare up at the painted ceiling, where a mythical fenghuang, a Chinese phoenix, is frozen mid-flight, a bird of fortune, a symbol of the Empress. Lying here, in this small, quiet room, a tiny spark of defiance ignites within you. You will not be forgotten. You will not fade into the background like a figure in a painted landscape. You will learn the rules, yes, but you will also learn how to bend them. You will watch, you will listen, and you will wait for your moment. The game is one of survival, and you are determined to play it. For now, you close your eyes, letting the lonely sound of the night watchman's clapper carry you into an uneasy sleep, your dreams filled with the endless geometry of courtyards and the silent, watchful faces of dragons. The days that follow your arrival bleed into one another, each a perfect, placid copy of the one before. The morning drum pulls you from a restless sleep on your hard mattress. You dress in the prescribed silks, your fingers growing more adept at the intricate fastenings. You practice calligraphy, your brush strokes becoming smoother, more controlled. You learn the delicate art of embroidery, your needles tracing ancient patterns of peonies and cranes. You spend hours memorizing poetry and practicing the guqin, the seven-stringed zither whose music is meant to be as serene and orderly as the palace itself. You are being polished, refined, shaped into a perfect imperial accessory. But beneath the placid surface, you are watching and you are listening. True knowledge in the Forbidden City doesn't come from the official tutors or the classic texts. It flows through the hidden channels of gossip, in the whispers between junior eunuchs polishing brass, in the sighs of serving maids mending torn silk. And the whispers are all about him, the Xianfeng emperor, the dragon, the man who holds your entire future in the palm of his hand. They don't speak of a divine being. They speak of a man burdened by a crumbling empire. Rebellions rage in the south, foreign ships menace the coasts, and the treasury is dwindling. They say he is prone to fits of temper, followed by long periods of deep, impenetrable melancholy. They speak of his retreat from the tedious matters of state into the more pleasant company of court musicians, actors, and the sweet, hazy oblivion of wine and opium. He is not a monster, you learn. He is a weary man, trapped in a role he is ill-suited to bear. And in this knowledge, you find your first flicker of genuine empathy and your first real opportunity. Your first glimpse of him is not the intimate audience you might have imagined. It's a formal procession crossing one of the vast, sun-drenched courtyards. You are lined up with 50 other consorts, a rainbow of silent, bowing women. Protocol is absolute. Your head must be bowed, your eyes fixed on the grey stones 3 feet in front of you. To look upon the Son of Heaven without permission is a transgression of the highest order. But you are a quick and subtle study. As you perform the deep, reverent bow, you lift your eyes for a fraction of a second. You see a flash of brilliant imperial yellow silk, a man of average height, his face pale and drawn, and his eyes are what stay with you. They sweep across the sea of bowing heads, but they seem to see nothing. It is the gaze of a man looking inward at his own private sorrows. He is surrounded by hundreds, yet utterly alone. He passes, a phantom of power, and you are left with the profound certainty that to be seen by those eyes, truly seen, is the only way to escape the gilded anonymity of this life. Soon, you learn of the nightly ritual that governs your fate. It is called fan paisi, the turning of the cards. Each evening, the chief eunuch presents the emperor with a silver tray laid with dozens of small, green-tipped lacquer plaques. Each plaque bears the name of a consort who is available for an imperial visit. The emperor, if he is so inclined, will casually flip over one of the cards. That is how the choice is made. It is not about beauty or wit or affection. It is a lottery. A far cry from a love letter. This nightly ritual was the ultimate game of chance, and you realize with chilling clarity that you could spend a lifetime here waiting for the fickle finger of fate to land on your name. Patience is a virtue, your tutors say, but you know that in this place, patience without action is just a slow form of surrender. You cannot win this game by playing by its official rules. You must create your own. You have a gift, your voice. At home, you were praised for your singing. Here, it has been just one more skill to be refined, another note in a chorus of female accomplishment. But you have heard the eunuchs whisper that the emperor loves music, especially the southern operas, the very songs your mother taught you. You have seen him, on rare occasions, walking alone in the quieter parts of the imperial garden, seeking refuge from the pressures of the throne. A plan begins to form in your mind, a delicate and dangerous piece of choreography. It is a terrible risk, to intentionally place yourself in the emperor's path, to make a sound when silence is commanded. It could be seen as audacious, manipulative. It could lead to punishment, to disgrace, to being relegated to the cold palace, the place where disfavored concubines are sent to live out their days in obscurity. But the alternative, a slow fade into invisibility, seems a far greater terror. One evening, as twilight bleeds purple and orange across the sky, you act. You've learned from a junior eunuch that the emperor often walks near the pavilion of floating jade after his evening meal. You find an excuse to be there, feigning an interest in the ancient cypress trees. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. You are wearing a simple but elegant gown of pale lilac silk, a colour of gentle melancholy. You wait in the shadows of a rock garden near the pavilion, hidden from the main path but close enough for your voice to carry. Then you hear them, the soft, shuffling footsteps of the eunuchs who attend him, and the heavier, slower tread of the emperor himself. Now, taking a breath that feels as if it's your last, you begin to sing. You don't sing loudly. You let the notes drift out, soft and clear, a thread of silver in the deepening twilight. It is a famous aria from the Peony Pavilion, a song of longing, of a love found only in dreams. It is a melody steeped in a sorrow so beautiful it becomes a kind of hope. Was it a song of hope, or the lament of a beautiful bird learning the melody of its cage? The footsteps stop. Silence. The entire world seems to be holding its breath. You continue to sing, your eyes downcast, your hands trembling slightly in the folds of your sleeves. You can feel a presence drawing nearer. Then, his voice, closer than you ever imagined it could be. Who is singing? Your song falters and dies. You sink into a deep, perfect curtsy, your forehead nearly touching the ground. You do not speak. You wait. This is the moment, the pivot upon which your entire life will turn. Rise, he says. His voice is not angry. It is curious. Slowly, you rise, keeping your eyes respectfully lowered. He stands before you, a lone figure detached from his attendants, who wait at a respectful distance. Close up, you can smell the faint, sweet scent of poppy on his robes, mingled with sandalwood incense. That song, he says, his voice softer now. I have not heard it sung with such feeling in a long time. What is your name? You find your own voice, and you are relieved to hear that it is calm and steady. This servant is the noble lady of the Nala clan. My name is Yehanara. He is quiet for a long moment, simply looking at you. You dare a quick glance up and see that his melancholy eyes are focused on you. Truly focused. For the first time, you are not part of the scenery. You are the scene. Yehanara, he repeats, as if testing the sound of it. You have a beautiful voice. He lingers for another moment, a silent eternity, before turning and continuing his walk without another word. You remain frozen in place until his entourage has disappeared completely. The silence that rushes back in is deafening. Had you succeeded? Or had you just signed your own warrant for the cold palace? You do not have to wait long for the answer. Later that night, long after the last gong has sounded, there is a knock at your door. It is the chief eunuch himself, flanked by 2 junior attendants holding silk lanterns that cast a warm, dancing glow on his impassive face. He does not need to speak. His presence says everything. Your name was not chosen from a tray tonight. It was spoken. The ritual that follows is swift and impersonal. You are led to a bath chamber, where serving women bathe you in perfumed water and anoint your skin with fragrant oils. You are stripped of all your robes, all your jewelry, every pin from your hair. You are left with nothing but your own skin. This is to ensure no weapon, no pin or needle can be hidden and carried into the imperial bedchamber. Then you are wrapped tightly, from your shoulders to your feet, in a thick red silk quilt, until you are as snug as a scroll. Not exactly the grand romantic entrance one dreams of, but it was an ancient and effective security measure. One of the younger, stronger eunuchs hefts you onto his back. It is a strange and humbling sensation, to be carried like a parcel through the silent, moonlit corridors of the Forbidden City. You pass darkened halls and sleeping courtyards on your way to the very centre of this vast universe, the Hall of Mental Cultivation, the Emperor's private residence. You have done it. You have caught the gaze of the dragon. Now you must find a way to hold it. The air in the Hall of Mental Cultivation is heavy with the scent of old paper, sandalwood, and the sweet, cloying smoke of the opium pipe that is his constant companion. You are unwrapped from your silken cocoon by silent maids, who then retreat like shadows, leaving you alone with the Son of Heaven. The room is not just a bedchamber, it is the weary heart of the Empire. Stacks of yellow-bound memorials, petitions and reports from every corner of his vast domain are piled high on lacquered tables. Maps of distant provinces are pinned to silk screens. This is a place of immense power, but it feels like a place of immense burden. He is not the distant divine figure from the courtyard. Here, in the soft lantern light, with his formal dragon robes exchanged for a simple silk gown, you see the man you glimpsed in his eyes. He is tired. He gestures for you to sit, not on a subservient stool, but on a cushion near him. He doesn't want a lover, not at first. He wants a listener, once. And so you listen. That night, and on the many nights that follow, the green-tipped plaques on their silver tray gather dust. Your name is requested directly. Your calculated risk, the song in the garden, has paid off more than you could have dreamed. You become his refuge. He talks of the endless floods along the Yellow River, of the strange, pale-faced barbarians who bring cannons and Bibles to his shores, of the Taiping rebels who claim a new heavenly kingdom. He speaks of his own inadequacy, a quiet confession whispered into the safe silence of the room. You do more than listen. You speak. You are one of the few women in the entire Forbidden City who can read and write Manchu with fluency. You discuss the classic poets with him, you debate points of history. He finds in you not just a beautiful face and a lovely voice, but a mind that offers a distraction from the opium haze and the crushing weight of his duties. Slowly, you are becoming not just his consort, but his confidant. It's an intimacy far more potent than any physical embrace. The palace, of course, notices everything. The climate of a court can change as quickly as the weather, and you are now the source of a warm and favourable wind. Your morning bowl of rice porridge is now made with rare birds' eggs. The silks delivered to your chambers are of a finer weave, in colours once reserved for more senior consorts. The eunuchs and maids who once looked through you now bow so low their foreheads nearly scrape the floor. Even Malin, your stern instructor, now addresses you with a new, softer reverence. And you are promoted. First, you are raised to the 4th rank, pin, or concubine ye. Then, just a few months later, to the 3rd rank, fay, or consort ye. Each promotion is announced with great ceremony, a public declaration of the emperor's favour. The other women watch you glide through the courtyards, their faces a carefully curated collection of polite smiles. But in their eyes, you see the cold fire of envy. You have cracked the code they are all still trying to decipher. Then, a few seasons after your first song in the garden, you begin to feel a deep and unfamiliar change within your own body, a morning queasiness, a new and profound fatigue. The imperial physicians are summoned. They kneel before you, their fingers gently pressing your wrist, their faces a study in concentration. They confer in hushed tones, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the most senior among them speaks, his voice trembling with the weight of his own words. He confirms it. You are with child. The news electrifies the Forbidden City. The emperor has daughters, but after years of marriage to his empress and attention to his many consorts, the dragon throne still lacks a male heir. A collective breath is held from the grandest halls of state to the most humble servants' quarters. Your life transforms instantly. You are no longer just a favoured consort. You are the most sacred vessel in the Qing Empire. You are moved to a grand apartment in the palace of accumulated elegance. A team of 20 servants is assigned to you. Your diet becomes a matter of state importance. Each meal designed to provide perfect nourishment and balance, recorded and inspected by physicians. The Empress herself, the elegant and childless Empress Jen, pays you a formal visit. She brings gifts of jade and ginseng, her smile never wavering, her words perfectly correct. But behind her placid grace, you sense the deep, painful sting of a wife's duty that has been fulfilled by another. It is a quiet, dignified rivalry, a game of appearances in which you both must play your part perfectly. The months pass in a cocoon of protected quiet. And then, one spring afternoon in 1856, it begins. The palace is sealed. The tension is a palpable thing, a humming in the air. For hours, there is only the rhythmic chanting of monks, the anxious pacing of the emperor in the courtyard outside, and your own world shrinking to the singular, primal focus of bringing a new life into the world. And then it happens. A cry, a strong, healthy, undeniable cry. It is the sound of a dynasty secured. A eunuch, his face streaked with tears of joy, rushes out to make the announcement. It is a son. A wave of celebration washes over the city. Bells ring, firecrackers pop, and the court is delirious with relief. The emperor, your weary, troubled emperor, is radiant. He bursts into your room, his usual melancholy replaced by pure, unadulterated joy. And he bestows upon you the highest honour he can. You are elevated to Gui Fei, the noble consort Yi. You are now of the second rank, second only to the Empress. In a single day, you have ascended to the very heights of the imperial harem. But with this great triumph comes a quiet, unexpected heartbreak. Your son, your little boy, named Zaichun, is a child of the state. It is the imperial custom. The heir cannot be raised by his mother, lest she wield too much influence over him. He is taken from you and installed in his own palace, surrounded by a legion of wet nurses, tutors, and eunuchs. Your role is reduced to formal scheduled visits. You see your own baby as if you are a foreign dignitary, allowed a brief supervised audience. You hold him, and he feels like a stranger's child. This ache, this separation, hardens a part of your heart into pure resolve. You will not be a distant, ceremonial mother. To protect him, to truly be a part of his life, you will need more than just rank. You will need real power. Your opportunity comes from the emperor's weakness. His health is failing, his reliance on opium increasing. The mountains of paperwork do not shrink. He finds the endless memorials from his officials tedious, their calligraphy difficult to read in his increasingly hazy state. So he begins to ask a favor of you, the one person he trusts completely, the mother of his heir. Noble consort, he might say, gesturing to a pile of scrolls. Read this to me. My eyes are tired. So you do. You sit behind a small silk screen near his desk, a concession to propriety that still allowed a woman to be present in the room where state business was conducted, and you read. You read reports on military movements, proposals for tax reforms, and petitions for appointments. Not exactly light reading, but you absorb it all. Your intelligence, once a private asset, now becomes a political tool. After a while, he moves beyond simply having you read. This minister proposes a new dam on the Han River, he'll murmur, his eyes half closed. What do you think of his reasoning, Yi? And you give him your opinion. You point out a flaw in the budget. You question a magistrate's loyalty based on a previous report you read. You have a keen memory and a sharp, intuitive grasp of politics. He begins to rely on your judgment. Soon, you are not just reading and commenting. You are helping him draft the imperial responses. Your elegant calligraphy gracing the margins of official documents before they are copied over for the final seal. Power, you are beginning to learn, is not a roaring fire, but a quiet, patient warmth you must tend to every day. You are tending the embers of a great empire for a failing emperor. You have his ear, his trust, and his son. The scared girl who entered the Forbidden City is gone forever. In her place sits a noble consort, a mother, and a political apprentice, learning the craft of power one secret document at a time. The rigid, gilded cage of the Forbidden City gives way to a sprawling paradise. For the past few years, much of your life has been spent here, at the Yuanming Yuan, the old summer palace. It is not one palace, but a vast constellation of gardens, lakes, and pavilions spread over nearly 1,000 acres. Unlike the severe north-south axis of the Forbidden City, this place is a masterpiece of intentional chaos, designed to imitate the wild beauty of nature. Here, you can wander through man-made hills, cross marble bridges that arc over serene lotus ponds, and rest in pavilions named with a poet's touch. The Hall of Magnanimous Open-Heartedness, or the Pavilion of Calm Seas. It is a world of breathtaking beauty, containing not only the finest Chinese art, but also European-style palaces with clockwork fountains and mazes, gifts and curiosities from a world far away. Here, in this dreamscape, the troubles of the empire feel distant, like a storm on a far horizon. You watch your young son, Zaichun, take his first steps on a lawn of perfect green. and you feel a sense of peace, a fragile illusion of permanence. Your influence has grown, the emperor depends on your counsel, and your life has found a comfortable, powerful rhythm. But the storm on the horizon is moving closer. The whispers of war with the British and the French are no longer just whispers. They are the frantic reports brought by dust-covered messengers who have ridden their horses to death. The barbarians, as the court still calls them, are not staying by the coast. Their armies are marching inland. They have defeated the imperial forces in battle after battle. Now, they are approaching Beijing itself. The news ripples through the summer palace, shattering the dream. The atmosphere thickens with a fear so profound, it is almost a physical presence. Panic flutters behind the elegant fans of the court ladies. The ministers, who once spoke with such arrogant confidence of repelling the invaders, are now pale and agitated. They argue in hushed, urgent tones in the emperor's presence. Some, the old guard, insist the Son of Heaven cannot possibly flee. It would be an unthinkable humiliation, an abandonment of the celestial capital. Others, the realists, know that for the emperor to be captured would mean the end of the dynasty. The emperor himself seems to shrink with every new report. This crisis is too vast, too real, to be clouded by opium or wished away with a new opera performance. He is paralyzed by indecision and shame, lashing out one moment and sinking into a silent stupor the next. In his paralysis, a vacuum of leadership forms, and it is you, along with the emperor's shrewd brother, Prince Gong, who step into it. In the quiet of the imperial chambers, you speak to him not as a subject to her sovereign, but as a woman to her husband. You argue that his life and the life of his heir, your son, is the living embodiment of the dynasty. A city can be retaken, but a captured emperor is a light that can never be relit. Your logic is cold, clear, and persuasive. The decision is made. The court will flee to the safety of the imperial hunting lodge in Rehe, a mountain resort north of the Great Wall. Of course, it cannot be called a flight. The imperial face must be saved, even with enemy cannons at the gates. And so, a grand fiction is created. An edict is issued, announcing that the emperor is simply embarking on his traditional autumn hunting expedition a bit earlier than usual. It's a piece of political theatre so transparent it's almost comical, a way to maintain the illusion of control, even as that control evaporates completely. What follows is chaos, thinly veiled by the strictures of protocol. Eunuchs and servants rush through the pavilions, hastily crating priceless porcelain vases, jade sculptures, and scrolls of calligraphy. There is simply too much to save. Generations of accumulated treasures, a nation's artistic soul, must be abandoned. You oversee the packing of your own necessities, but your focus is singular. Your son, Zaichun. He is only 4 years old, a bewildered child in a world of panicked adults. You refuse to let him out of your sight, ensuring he is placed in a secure cart near your own, his comfort and safety your only true priority. The massive imperial cavalcade finally assembles for departure. As you sit in your swaying cart, you take one last look back at the Yuanming Yuan. You see the elegant curved roofs glinting in the morning sun, the weeping willows trailing their branches into the calm, perfect water. It feels like you are looking at a painting of a life that is already over. You feel a profound and certain grief, a premonition that you will never see it this way again. The journey north is a nightmare. This is no grand imperial tour. The roads are a morass of mud, clogged with soldiers, officials, and commoners, all fleeing the advance of the foreign army. The immense procession moves at a crawl. The autumn rains are cold and relentless. The silks and brocades are splattered with mud. For the first time, you are truly outside the protective bubble of the palace. You see the fear on the faces of the peasants who line the road. You see the disorganization of the army meant to protect you. The empire, which seems so orderly and absolute from within the walls of your palace, feels fragile and broken out here. You arrive at the mountain resort of Rehe, a fortress-like palace nestled in the rugged hills. It is a refuge, but it feels like an exile. And it is here, in this cold mountain air, that the final devastating news reaches you. A messenger arrives, his face ashen, his body trembling. The Anglo-French forces have occupied Beijing. Prince Gong, who was left behind to negotiate, has been forced to surrender. But that is not the worst of it. The messenger tells you that the invaders entered the summer palace. They spent days looting it, stripping it of every treasure they could carry. Clocks, jewels, silks, porcelain, ancient bronzes, all of it stolen, crated up, and sent away. And then, when there was nothing left to steal, the British High Commissioner, a man called Lord Elgin, gave an order. He ordered his troops to set the entire palace complex on fire, as a punishment for the mistreatment of his envoys. For 3 days and 3 nights, the Yuanming Yuan burned. The news is received in stunned, horrified silence. The garden of perfect brightness, the soul of the empire, has been reduced to a pile of charred rubble and smoking ash. It is an act of cultural vandalism so profound, it is almost impossible to comprehend. The emperor, upon hearing the news, lets out a terrible guttural cry and collapses, spitting blood. His spirit is not just broken, it is annihilated. This humiliation is a wound from which he will never, ever recover. He turns his face to the wall and retreats completely into the fog of opium, refusing to speak of a return to a capital that has been so violated. While he crumbles, something inside you hardens. Your grief is immense, but it quickly transforms into a cold, diamond-hard fury. You see with perfect clarity the incompetence of the imperial advisors who led the empire to this disaster. You see the fecklessness of a court more concerned with saving face than with saving itself. And you see the emperor, the man you once sought to comfort, now a shattered vessel incapable of ruling. You look at your son, Zaichun, playing with a wooden toy, blissfully unaware that the magnificent palace he was born to inherit is now a ruin. His inheritance is this broken, humiliated empire. And the duty to preserve that inheritance, to somehow rebuild from these ashes, can no longer be trusted to the men around you. It is a burden that is settling, slowly and surely, onto your shoulders. The safety of the garden is gone. You now live in the stark reality of the world beyond its walls. How quickly the solid walls of an empire can turn to smoke and memory. The Rehe Imperial Mountain Resort is supposed to be a refuge, but it feels like a prison. The rugged mountains that surround the palace, once a symbol of nature's grandeur, now seem like immense walls cutting you off from the world. The court settles into a strange, suspended existence. The daily rituals continue, the formal meals, the music, the carefully prescribed walks, but they are hollow gestures. A profound depression has settled over the exiled court, a collective grief for the burned palace and the humiliated throne. At the center of this gloom is the emperor himself. He has completely abdicated the duties of his office. He refuses to hear any news from Beijing, where his brother Prince Gong is desperately trying to manage the foreign powers and hold the government together. Any mention of returning to the capital sends him into a fit of rage or a deep, week-long sulk. The shame of the flight and the destruction of his beloved Yuanming Yuan has broken him. His days are now a predictable, tragic cycle. He wakes late, drinks heavily, and summons the palace opera troupe for endless command performances. The rest of his time is spent in the sweet, numbing haze of his opium pipe. You watch him fade. It is a slow, painful process. His skin grows waxy and pale. His imperial yellow robes hang loosely on his thinning frame. A persistent, rattling cough plagues him day and night. It is a strange and lonely thing to watch a man become a ghost before he is even gone. The elaborate customs surrounding the emperor's health only make things worse. Officially, the Son of Heaven is never ill. He is merely indisposed or experiencing disharmony. A team of the empire's finest physicians is in constant attendance, but they are paralyzed by fear. In the imperial court, a physician whose patient dies can be accused of failure or even treason. And so they hover, wringing their hands, taking his pulse 12 times a day, but offering only the mildest herbal broths and most timid suggestions. Their prescriptions are designed not to cure the patient, but to protect the doctor. While the emperor drifts and his physicians dither, the business of the empire does not stop. Stacks of memorials still arrive daily from Beijing, urgent requests for decisions on military affairs, appointments, and treaties. And since the emperor will not touch them, they come to you. You have become the unofficial, secret conduit to the throne. You read the documents in the quiet of your own chambers, your mind sharp and clear. You distill the complex information, and in his rare moments of lucidity, you present him with the essential facts. He will often just wave a hand, murmuring, "You decide, noble consort. You decide." Your power is real, but it is fragile, entirely dependent on the breath and favor of a dying man. And others in the court see this. A new faction begins to coalesce in the vacuum, a clique of conservative Manchu nobles led by a shrewd and ambitious official named Sushun. They are intensely suspicious of you, a woman meddling in state affairs, and they despise Prince Gong for his pragmatism in dealing with the foreigners. They see the emperor's decline as their opportunity to seize control. They begin a subtle campaign to isolate you. They surround the emperor, filling his ears with poison against Prince Gong, stoking his paranoia. They try to intercept the flow of documents, claiming they are sparing the emperor the burden. A quiet, vicious chess match begins. It is a war fought not with armies, but with whispers, with control over the appointment schedule, with the strategic delivery of a bowl of soup. This kind of court intrigue, you reflect with a wry, internal smile, is often more exhausting than any real battle. You learn to be cunning, using your established intimacy to bypass Sushun's guards and gain access to the emperor when his rivals believe him to be sleeping. By the summer of 1861, it is clear the end is near. The emperor's cough is constant, and he is too weak to leave his bed. A palpable tension grips the resort. Your son, Zaichun, is the undisputed heir. He will become the Tongji emperor. But he is only 5 years old. The question on everyone's mind is, who will rule for him? Who will be the regent? Sushun makes his final move. He and his 7 allies convince the delirious, dying emperor that they, the most loyal and traditional Manchu nobles, are the only ones who can be trusted to guide the young emperor and protect the dynasty from foreign influence and scheming women. In one of his last official acts, the Xianfeng emperor signs an edict. He creates an 8-member regency council with Sushun at its head to govern the empire. The edict deliberately and pointedly excludes 2 people. You, the boy's own mother, and Prince Gong, the most capable statesman in the country. It is a coup, signed and sealed by the very man you have served. You are devastated, but you do not despair. You rally yourself for one last appeal. You gain access to the emperor's deathbed, bringing the other senior wife, the gentle Empress Zhen, with you. You weep. You plead for the future of your son. You argue that to completely exclude the new emperor's mothers from any official role would be an insult to the memory of the boy's father. Your appeal, combined with some lingering affection, sways him. He is too weak to rewrite the edict appointing the regents, but he agrees to a compromise. He grants 2 imperial seals, symbols of the highest authority. The first, a rectangular seal bearing the characters for imperial reading, he gives to you. The second, with the inscription, "With the emperor's own brush," he gives to Empress Zhen. He then decrees that any edict issued by the Regency Council will be invalid unless it is stamped with both of these seals. To him, it was likely a small concession to appease 2 grieving women. To Sushan, it seemed a minor ceremonial hurdle. But to you, your mind racing as you accept the heavy jade seal. It is everything. They have the titles, but you have the veto. The power of a rubber stamp, as a future age might call it, has never been more absolute. Days later, the emperor dies. You are there, standing beside his bed, a silent witness. As he takes his last, rattling breath, the atmosphere in the room changes instantly. Sushan and the 7 other regents are now in command. They look at you and Empress Zhen, no longer the favoured consorts of a living emperor, but merely 2 dowagers, seemingly stripped of all influence. There is an unmistakable look of triumph in their eyes. They believe they have won. They see you as a decorative figure, a mother to be respectfully shelved while they rule the empire. They have the emperor's will, the official positions, and the command of the guards at Reihe. But as you look down at the still face of your husband, you feel a grief that is cold and clear, unclouded by panic. You have your son, the new emperor. You have an alliance of necessity with Empress Zhen. You have a powerful waiting ally in Prince Gong. And you have a small, heavy piece of carved jade that holds the power to stop them in their tracks. The sovereign has faded, but the game for his throne is just beginning. In the cold, clear air of Reihe, a new and silent war begins. The emperor is dead. Your son, a 5-year-old boy, is now the sovereign, the Tongji emperor. And the 8 regents, led by the arrogant Sushan, are the undisputed masters of the court. They control the palace guards, the flow of information, and the official schedule. You and the senior dowager, Empress Zhen, now known by her formal title, Qian, are treated with exquisite, suffocating courtesy. You are consulted on trivial matters, like the colour of the mourning silks, but excluded from all real decisions. You are revered figures, but you are also prisoners, watched at every moment. Sushan and his allies make no secret of their intentions. They issue their first edicts, sidelining officials loyal to Prince Gong and consolidating their own power. They believe they have already won. They see you as the young, ambitious concubine who got lucky, and Qian as the gentle, retiring widow. They fail to understand the bond that forms between you in these tense, watchful days. In the quiet of your shared mourning, you forge a critical alliance. Empress Dowager Qian is not a political creature by nature. She is kind, pious, and weary of conflict. But she was the late emperor's principal wife, and she loved him. She sees Sushan's disrespect for his memory and his blatant power grab as an insult to the throne. More importantly, she trusts you. She sees your intelligence, your iron will, and she understands that you are the only one capable of challenging the regents. She agrees to support you, to lend her senior rank and her imperial seal to your cause. You will be the strategist, the mind of the operation. She will be its unimpeachable, legitimate face. Your next move is to bridge the hundreds of miles separating you from your most powerful potential ally, Prince Gong in Beijing. Open communication is impossible. Every messenger is searched, every letter read, so you must rely on older, more clandestine methods. A loyal eunuch, a man you have cultivated for years, becomes your lifeline. He sews your secret letters, written in tiny, precise characters on the thinnest silk, into the thick sole of his shoe. Not exactly a text message, but this handwritten note, carried across dusty roads, carries far more weight. In it, you detail the regent's treasonous behavior and outline the whispers of a plan. The prince, already stripped of his authority by Sushun's first decrees, sends back a simple reply through the same channel. He is ready. He will gather the forces in Beijing that are loyal to him and await your signal. The regents, blind with arrogance, soon hand you the opportunity you've been waiting for. They announce that the late emperor's funeral procession must begin. The coffin must be transported overland to Beijing for the elaborate burial rites at the eastern Qing tombs. This procession is a sacred and unalterable tradition. It must move at a slow, solemn walking pace, a journey that will take weeks. Sushun, wishing to be seen as the ultimate authority and keeper of the imperial legacy, decides that he and his most trusted allies will personally escort the coffin. It is a decision born of vanity, and it will be his undoing. This is your moment. You go before the Regency Council, with Qian at your side. You play the part of the grieving widow and concerned mother to perfection. You argue that such a long, arduous journey on rough roads would be too taxing for the young emperor. You insist that it would be improper for the two dowager empresses to endure such hardship. With tears in your eyes, you request that you, Qian, and your son be allowed to travel ahead by a faster route, so that you may arrive in the capital early to prepare the mourning rituals. Sushun and the other regents look at each other. The request seems perfectly reasonable, even desirable. Getting the two meddlesome women and the boy king out of their hair while they manage the grand, symbolic procession sounds like a fine idea. One can almost see the smug satisfaction in their eyes. They are dangerously good at underestimating a grieving mother. They grant your request. The court splits into two. Sushun's procession is a slow, ponderous spectacle of imperial power, a river of yellow banners and mourning white, inching its way toward a capital he believes he controls. Your journey is the opposite. You travel swiftly with a small guard, your carts moving as fast as the roads will allow. The tension in your small carriage is immense. Every stop, every new face along the road could be a threat. You are racing toward a confrontation, carrying the living emperor with you. Your entire future, and the future of the dynasty, rests on what awaits you in Beijing. You arrive at the gates of the capital a full week before the funeral procession, and just as he promised, Prince Gong is there to meet you. He is not alone. He is flanked by his own loyal Manchu bannermen and the commander of the Beijing garrison. The guards at the city gates bow to your son, the emperor, and to you. The balance of power shifts in an instant. Within the high walls of the Forbidden City, you are no longer a prisoner. You are in command. Wasting no time, you and Prince Gong hold a series of secret meetings deep within the palace. While Sushun is still days away, admiring his own stately progress, you are setting the trap. You have the political and military power gathered. Now, you need the ultimate justification. You take out your jade seal, the one inscribed Imperial Reading. Empress Dowager Cixi takes out hers. Together, with Prince Gong advising on the precise language, you draft a new imperial edict in the name of your son, the Tongji Emperor. The document is a masterpiece of political destruction. It accuses Sushun and the 8 regents of having aggressively seized power, of forging the late emperor's will, of bullying the dowager empresses, and of treason against the throne. It strips them of all titles and authority and orders their immediate arrest and trial. The document is then stamped with both seals, making it an unassailable imperial command. All you have to do is wait. Days later, Sushun's grand procession finally reaches the outskirts of Beijing. Exhausted from the long journey, caked in dust but filled with self-importance, he prepares for his triumphant entry. He imagines the entire court, led by Prince Gong, bowing to him and the coffin he has so loyally escorted. Instead, as he approaches the city gates, he is met by a cordon of armed soldiers. Prince Gong rides forward, his face a mask of cold fury. He does not bow. He unrolls the edict. As the words are read aloud, a wave of disbelief, then horror, washes over Sushun's face. He sputters, protests, claims the edict is a forgery, but then he sees it. The clear crimson impressions of the 2 seals at the bottom of the scroll. The seals he dismissed as a trivial concession. His authority evaporates in that single moment. His personal guards are hopelessly outnumbered. Before he can even draw his sword, he and the other regents are seized, bound, and arrested. The Xinyu coup, named for the year it took place, is over. It was swift, audacious, and nearly bloodless. You have won. A new edict, also bearing your seals, is issued. You and Tian are named co-regents for your son. Prince Gong is appointed Prince Regent, head of the military and the government. You stand at a window in the Palace of Heavenly Purity, looking out over the vast, silent courtyards below. Months ago, you were a consort, fighting for favor. Weeks ago, you were a prisoner, fighting for survival. Now, you are the master of it all. For a throne to be won, sometimes the most important battles must be fought in complete silence. The dust from the coup settles with a chilling finality. Sushun and his primary conspirators are put on trial. The verdict is a foregone conclusion, but the sentence is your first act as a ruler, and you know the court is watching. Mercy must be balanced with a clear message. Instead of the gruesome death by 1,000 cuts reserved for the worst traitors, Sushun is granted the privilege of a silken cord to end his own life, while others face a swift beheading. It is a calculated act, a demonstration of both your absolute power to destroy your enemies and your benevolent restraint. With this, the last embers of opposition are stamped out. A new order rises from the ashes. It is a triumvirate of power, a delicate 3-legged stool upon which the stability of the empire now rests. There is the Empress Dowager Cixi, your senior partner, the benevolent and respected face of the regency, whose presence confers unimpeachable legitimacy on your actions. There is Prince Gong, your indispensable ally, appointed Prince Regent and head of the Grand Council, the brilliant statesman who will manage the day-to-day government and face the challenging world of foreign diplomacy. And then there is you. You are the Dowager Empress Cixi, the mother of the emperor, the driving will, the final arbiter. While Qian may handle the intricate affairs of the vast imperial household, and Prince Gong may command the armies, all major policy, all significant appointments, all matters of the dynasty's future must pass through you. Your new reign begins with a ceremony of immense and unusual symbolism. The court assembles in the Hall of Heavenly Purity. the highest-ranking ministers and princes of the land. Men who have governed provinces and led armies, file in and arrange themselves in perfect, silent rows. They kneel on silk cushions, their eyes fixed forward. On the enormous dragon throne sits your son, the Tongji Emperor. He is 6 years old, a tiny figure in a vast sea of imperial yellow, his small feet barely reaching the edge of the seat. And directly behind the throne, there is something new, a long screen of bright yellow silk, stretched taut on a carved wooden frame. It is translucent enough to admit light, but opaque enough to obscure the figures who sit behind it. You and Qian take your seats there, hidden from the male world of the court. This is the beginning of Chui Lian Tang Zhang, the practice of ruling from behind the curtain. The audience begins. A minister, a man with a long grey beard who has served 3 emperors, prostrates himself, his forehead touching the floor. He addresses his report not to the screen, but to the small boy on the throne. He speaks of grain taxes, of canal repairs, of border disputes. Your son, as he has been instructed, sits perfectly still. He is a living symbol, the focal point of all this ritual, but he is silent. He would almost certainly rather be chasing crickets in the palace gardens, a thought that brings a faint, fleeting smile to your face behind the screen. When the minister finishes, there is a pause. The entire court waits, listening. Then, a voice comes from behind the silk curtain. Your voice, clear, calm, and questioning. You state that the harvests in Shandong are poor, you might say, your voice disembodied, seeming to come from the throne itself. What measures have the provincial governors taken to prevent famine? The minister, still on his knees, answers the voice, and so it goes, for hours. You question, you command, you approve, you deny. The most powerful men in China are taking orders from a woman they cannot see. One word from the shadows could change the course of a river or the fate of a province. With the old conservative faction gone, you and Prince Gong are free to pursue a new pragmatic path. The humiliation of the war and the burning of the summer palace was a brutal lesson. The empire must change to survive. This marks the beginning of what future historians will call the Tongji Restoration. You give your assent to a series of radical reforms. A new government body, the Zongli Yamen, is formally established to handle foreign relations. No longer can you pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist. You approve the creation of schools to teach Western languages, mathematics, and science. You support the modernization of the army, equipping it with Western weapons and tactics. It is a quiet revolution, enacted from behind a screen. Your life becomes a grueling routine of governance. You rise before the sun does. Your chamber's already lit with lanterns as you read through the stack of memorials that arrived overnight. Your mind, once focused on poetry and palace intrigue, is now consumed with military logistics, agricultural reports, and the endless complex dance of political appointments. The long hours of audiences follow, your voice growing hoarse from questioning ministers. Your afternoons are spent in private strategy sessions with Prince Gong and Qian. You are learning to rule on the job, and you discover you have a talent for it. You possess a remarkable memory for detail, a keen eye for flattery, and a ruthless intolerance for incompetence. Your partnership with Qian is the bedrock of this new government. The court officials who once hoped to play the two of you against each other are quickly disappointed. Qian has little interest in the minutiae of policy, but she has a strong moral compass. You consult her on every major decision, respecting her position and her wisdom. She is often the one to soften your harder edges, to suggest a more compassionate course, to remind you of the human cost of a political decision. In return, she trusts your political instincts completely, lending her seal and her voice to your shared edicts. The men of the court had gravely underestimated the power of two women working in concert. It was a mistake they would not make again. In quiet moments, you sometimes take out the jade seal given to you by your dying husband. You trace the characters carved into its surface. Imperial reading. He gave it to you as a concession, a trinket to soothe a grieving wife. He could never have imagined what it would become. Now, this small, cool object is the ultimate key to power. When you press it into the soft red paste and then onto a document, your will becomes the law of the land. The long day ends. The ministers have bowed their way out. The last edict has been dispatched. You walk through the quiet corridors to your son's sleeping quarters. The heavy ceremonial robes have been removed. He is asleep, curled up under a silk quilt, looking small and vulnerable. He is not the emperor now. He is just Zaichun, your little boy. You stand over him, a silent guardian, and feel the immense, crushing weight of the dynasty you are holding in trust for him. The drama of the coup is over. Now, the real work begins. The long, slow, patient task of mending a broken empire, one day at a time, from behind a yellow silk screen. The years spool by, measured in the changing seasons and the slow, steady growth of your son. The Tongji restoration, the period of stability you have so carefully engineered, holds firm. The empire, while still facing immense challenges, is no longer on the brink of collapse. Your rule from behind the curtain is absolute, a familiar and accepted rhythm of the court. But the child who was once a silent prop on the dragon throne is now a boy, and that boy is fast becoming a man. With his changing voice and new height comes a new and deeply personal challenge, one that no edict can solve. His life is a cage of imperial expectation. His days are relentlessly scheduled from before dawn until long after dusk. He is drilled by the most formidable tutors in the land, men like the famously severe Wang Tonghe, who believes that discipline is the forge of character. He spends endless hours tracing calligraphy, memorizing thousands of lines of Confucian classics, and studying the dense histories of his ancestors. He is provided with bandu, or study companions, the sons of high-ranking Manchu princes. But it is a manufactured friendship. They must defer to him in all things. Their laughter is a beat behind his. Their opinions a careful echo. They are not friends. They are subjects in training. You oversee it all with a meticulous, demanding eye. You receive daily, detailed reports on his progress. Every poorly rendered character, every moment of inattention is noted and addressed. Your ambition for him is fierce. You are determined to forge him into the strong, wise, and diligent emperor his father could never be. You see it as your most sacred duty, the entire purpose of your regency. He, however, sees it as tyranny, your constant pressure, your relentless focus on his flaws, your very presence behind the screen at every audience. It all becomes a source of deep and abiding resentment. He begins to push back. He is not a natural scholar. He finds the ancient texts dull and stifling. He prefers the archery grounds to the classroom, the thrill of a galloping horse to the quiet scratch of a brush on paper. He becomes sullen with his tutors, offering monosyllabic answers and a defiant stare. You summon him to your private chambers, attempting to reason with him as a mother. You speak of the great responsibility that awaits him, of the millions of lives that will one day depend on his wisdom. But he no longer hears the voice of a loving mother. He hears the voice from behind the curtain, the voice of ultimate authority. the power that controls his every waking moment. Your advice feels like criticism. Your concern feels like control. He begins to find companionship, not with the stiff, proper sons of nobles, but with the palace eunuchs. They are his escape. They do not lecture him on his duty. They flatter him. They praise his archery skills, laugh loudly at his jokes, and most dangerously, they tell him stories of the world outside the forbidden city's walls, a world of noise, colour, and freedom. They become his co-conspirators in small acts of rebellion, skipping a lesson to go riding, playing dice when he should be studying. As he enters his teenage years, this rebellion deepens into something far more perilous. Led by his favourite eunuchs, he discovers he can escape the palace. Disguised in the plain clothes of a merchant's son, he begins to slip out at night. He ventures into the vibrant, chaotic, and for him, utterly forbidden, pleasure quarters of Beijing. The contrast to his daily life is intoxicating. The palace is a world of prescribed silence, of gliding mannered steps on polished stone. The city is a riot of sound. The clang of blacksmiths, the shouts of street vendors, the music spilling from tea houses, the laughter of women who are not his mother or his tutors. For the first time, he feels anonymous and free. Whispers of the emperor's secret life eventually reach your ears. At first, you dismiss them as malicious rumors, but you have your own network of spies, and their reports confirm your worst fears. You are caught in a terrible bind, a dilemma as old as time, though yours has impossibly high stakes. This isn't just a boy sneaking out to defy his mother. This is the son of heaven frequenting brothels and gambling dens, risking disease, disgrace, and the carefully crafted dignity of the throne. To punish him with the full severity of imperial law is unthinkable. It would break him and your relationship forever. But to do nothing is to condone his self-destruction. Teenage rebellion, you reflect with a grim internal humour, is one of the few forces on earth as potent as an imperial edict. You confront him. The conversation is not one of gentle reasoning. It is a storm of accusation and recrimination. You speak with the full force of your authority, reminding him of his sacred duty to his ancestors and his people. He, finally finding the courage to defy you to your face, hurls back the angry words of a caged animal. He accuses you of loving power more than you love him, of enjoying your role as regent so much that you have no desire to ever give it up. He says you want to keep him weak so that you may rule forever. His words are a dagger to your heart, not because they are true, but because they contain a sliver of something you are afraid might be true. Do you enjoy the weight of the seal in your hand? Have you become accustomed to the deference of powerful men? The questions haunt you in the quiet hours of the night. The conflicts multiply as he approaches marriageable age. Choosing an empress is a matter of state, another tool to build alliances and secure the throne. You favour a young woman from the powerful Fucha clan. He, however, has fallen for the intelligent and spirited Lady Alute. It becomes another battle of wills, another arena for him to assert his independence. You eventually relent and approve his choice, but the struggle sours the occasion, turning what should be a joyous event into another source of friction. The date of his official ascension, his 18th birthday, looms ever larger. Soon by law, the regency must end. The curtain must come down, and he must rule in his own right. This deadline infuses everything with a frantic urgency. You try to cram a lifetime of political wisdom into the few remaining years. But the more you push, the more he withdraws. You look at the young man he has become, tall, handsome, radiating a sullen energy. and you barely recognize the little boy whose future you fought so hard to secure. You have saved an empire for him, but in the process, you feel you are losing the son. You have held the reins of power so tightly to protect his inheritance that you have strangled the affection between you. How do you teach a dragon to fly when you are afraid he will burn the world you have so carefully built? The day you have been planning for and dreading in equal measure finally arrives. Your son is a man. On a crisp autumn morning, a grand ceremony is held in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Before the assembled court, you and Empress Dowager Cixi formally announce the end of your regency. You step out from behind the yellow silk screen that has been your shield and your instrument of power for more than a decade. The curtain falls. The throne now belongs to the Tongji Emperor, in fact as well as in name. For you, it is a moment of profound public triumph and deep private anxiety. You have fulfilled your duty. Now you must watch and wait and hope that the boy you raised will not destroy the empire you saved. Your fears, sadly, are realized with astonishing speed. His short reign is a catalogue of youthful folly. Freed from your control, he dismisses the counsel of his most experienced advisors, including the ever-loyal Prince Gong. He surrounds himself with his old sycophantic friends and the eunuchs who had been his companions in rebellion. They fill his head with grandiose schemes. His pet project is the rebuilding of the old summer palace, a task that would bankrupt the already strained treasury. When you and his ministers are forced to unite to block the project on grounds of cost, he flies into a rage, seeing it as yet another attempt to undermine his authority. He even tries to strip Prince Gong of his titles, an order so rash you must personally intervene to reverse it. His young wife, the Empress Alute, whom he adores, only emboldens him. She is sharp, proud, and deeply resentful of your influence over her husband. She encourages him to stand up to you, to be his own man. She becomes your silent rival for his heart and mind, a new power within the inner court. And the tension between the two of you is a cold, unspoken war that permeates every palace gathering. Then, less than 2 years after he takes the throne, he falls ill. It begins as a simple fever, a malaise the court physicians dismiss as exhaustion from the pressures of his new role. But he does not recover. The fever climbs, and a dreaded rash begins to appear on his skin. The diagnosis is whispered in tones of terror through the palace corridors. Smallpox, the disease that respects neither rank nor royalty. The Forbidden City becomes a place of hushed panic, the air thick with the smell of medicinal herbs and the sound of chanted prayers. The moment you hear the news, all the political tension, all the resentment and disappointment melts away. It is replaced by the primal, gut-wrenching fear of a mother. You rush to his sick room, casting aside all protocol. You sit by his bedside for hours that bleed into days and nights. You brew his medicines with your own hands, wipe his fevered brow, and speak to him in the soft, gentle tones you had not used since he was a small child. And in his delirium, he responds. The years of rebellion and resentment fall away, and for a few brief, lucid moments, he is once more just your son, and you are his mother. It is a heartbreaking reconciliation, a final, fleeting peace found on the edge of a precipice. But the disease is relentless. In the cold heart of winter, in January of 1875, your son, the Tongji Emperor, dies. He is just 18 years old. The dragon throne, the center of your world, the entire focus of your life's ambition and struggle, is suddenly, violently empty. The grief that hits you is a physical blow, a raw, hollowing agony that threatens to consume you. Your only child is gone. The line of succession, which you had secured through his birth, is broken. But through the fog of your personal pain, the instincts of a ruler, honed by 2 decades of constant crisis, take over. Even as you mourn, your mind is a whirlwind of cold calculation. The empire cannot be without a leader. A decision must be made, and it must be made now. The crisis is immediate. Your son died without an heir. His wife, your rival, Empress Dowager, is rumored to be with child. If she is, and if she bears a son, she would become the Empress Dowager, the regent for the new infant emperor. Your power, your life's work, would be over in an instant. You would be relegated to the status of a grandmother, respected but powerless. You cannot let the fate of the dynasty rest on such a dangerous uncertainty. Before your son's body has even grown cold, you act. You summon the Grand Council, the princes, the ministers, to his deathbed. The air is thick with grief and confusion. You let them see your tears. You let them see the bereft mother. Then you let them see the empress. You remind them of the sacred succession laws. The heir must be of the next generation, down from the deceased emperor, to properly perform the rites of ancestor worship. Then, with breathtaking audacity, you declare that there are no suitable candidates in the next generation. Instead, you nominate your own nephew, your sister's child, Zaitian. He is a boy of 3, and crucially, he is of the same generation as your late son. A collective gasp goes through the room. It is a clear violation of tradition. To choose an heir from the same generation means your son will never have a proper son to honor his spirit. Several older conservative ministers protest, their voices trembling with shock. But you are unmovable. Your eyes, though red from weeping, are as hard as iron. Prince Gong, bound to you by years of alliance, gives his reluctant support. The military commanders in the room, whose loyalty you have carefully cultivated, make it clear they stand with you. Your will is absolute. Facing this united front, the opposition crumbles. That very night, an edict is issued. Your 3-year-old nephew is proclaimed the Guangxu Emperor, and you and Xian are once again named co-regents. Only one loose end remains, the young, widowed and possibly pregnant Empress Dowager. With your nephew named as heir, her position becomes impossible. If she is not carrying a child, she is simply a widow with no role. If she is carrying a child, that child is now a threat to the stability of the throne. Stripped of her husband and her status, she is isolated and powerless. Weeks later, the problem solves itself. Empress Dowager dies. The official court announcement states that she succumbed to a severe illness, brought on by her overwhelming grief. But darker rumors ripple through the Forbidden City, that she was subtly encouraged to join her husband in the afterlife, or that she simply gave up, starving herself in a final tragic act of protest. You never speak of it. Her convenient death removes the final obstacle. The curtain is rising again. You now have a new child to place on the throne, a new regency that will last for more than a decade. Your power is absolute, your future as ruler secure. But as you look at the bewildered toddler who is now the son of heaven, the victory feels like ashes in your mouth. You have lost your son. You have twisted the sacred laws of your ancestors. You have returned to the apex of power, but the throne room feels colder and lonelier than ever before. In the silent chambers of the heart, grief and ambition can be strange and inseparable companions. You are once again the hidden force behind the dragon throne. The yellow silk screen is back in its place, and your voice once more directs the vast creaking machinery of the empire. On the surface, little has changed, but within the quiet chambers of your own heart, everything is different. The grief for your son has carved a permanent hollow inside you. It has built a new wall, higher and colder than any in the Forbidden City, between you and the rest of the world. Your power is more secure than ever before, yet you have never felt so alone. Your co-regent, the gentle Qian, is growing older and more frail. She retreats further into the comforts of Buddhist chants and palace routine, leaving the tedious business of governance entirely to you. Your relationship with Prince Gong, once your staunchest ally, has become strained by years of difficult decisions and your own increasing authority. The ministers and princes who bow before you are just that, supplicants. They approach you with their faces masked by reverence, their words carefully chosen to flatter and persuade. Every interaction is a transaction. There is no one with whom you can simply be. The silence of your personal life is deafening. The loneliness is a physical presence, as real as the heavy silk of your robes or the cold jade of your bracelets. It is in this profound isolation that you begin to lean on the one person whose position allows him to be close, but whose nature makes him a confidant. Your chief eunuch, Li Lianying. He was not always so powerful. You remember him as a young man, a junior eunuch from a poor family, clever and quick on his feet. He rose through the ranks not through plotting or intrigue, but through sheer unwavering competence and a quiet, observant devotion to your comfort. He learned your habits, your moods, your preferences. He knew you preferred your tea a specific temperature, that a certain scent of incense calmed you after a trying audience, that you liked a particular embroidered shawl when the evening air grew chill. His service began as a form of art, a perfect anticipation of your needs. But slowly, it evolved into something more. In a court where everyone talked and few listened, Li Lianying was a master of silence. After a long day of sparring with the Grand Council, you would return to your chambers, and he would be there. He would not ask impertinent questions. He would simply serve your tea and wait, and you found yourself beginning to speak. You would vent your frustration over a stubborn minister. You would voice a flicker of doubt about a new policy. You would, on nights when the grief was heavy, speak of your son. And he would just listen, his head bowed, his presence a comforting, non-judgmental constant. This, you discover, is a rare and precious gift. Your interactions begin to subtly defy the rigid palace protocol. The formal distance between mistress and servant begins to dissolve. You start calling him by his nickname, Lianying, instead of his formal title. He still calls you Venerable Ancestor, the ultimate term of respect. But there is a warmth in it, a familiarity that would see any other servant severely punished. The court, of course, takes notice. The sight of the Empress Dowager speaking informally with her eunuch, sometimes even sharing a quiet joke, becomes the subject of endless, whispered gossip. The court has little to do in its idle hours, you reflect, besides chart the course of whispers. He becomes more than your confidant. He is your most trusted agent. He has his own network of eyes and ears among the thousands of eunuchs and serving maids. He understands the subtle shifts in loyalty, the new alliances, the secret resentments. He brings you not just information, but intelligence, seasoned with his own shrewd understanding of human nature. He is your chief of staff, your spy master, and your only true friend, all rolled into one. The whispers about your relationship inevitably turn scandalous. In the poisonous atmosphere of the court, they cannot conceive of a bond based on loyalty and companionship. They invent sordid, ugly rumors, unable to imagine that what you value most is not passion, but trust. The stories sting, but you have weathered worse storms. You are powerful enough to ignore them. The comfort of his unwavering support is worth more than the good opinion of whispering sycophants. Your bond is built not on grand gestures, but on small, human moments. One winter, he notices your persistent cough and, without being asked, has a special stove filled with smokeless charcoal brought to your chambers, along with a tonic prepared by his own hand from an old family recipe. It soothes your throat better than anything the imperial physicians prescribed. On the anniversary of your son's death, when you lock yourself away, refusing all company, he does not intrude. He simply places a single, perfect white camellia, a flower you loved as a girl, on a small table outside your door. It is a silent acknowledgement of your pain, a gesture of profound empathy. This relationship is not the stuff of epic romance. It is something quieter, more practical, and in your world, far more essential. It is a partnership built in the lonely spaces of absolute power. He has no desire to be a general or a governor. His ambition is tied completely to your own well-being and continued reign. In serving you, he has become one of the most powerful men in the empire. In trusting him, you have found the one thing power cannot buy: a loyal friend. A partnership like this is perhaps more intimate than any romance a modern world could understand. The years pass. The new Guangxu emperor is growing from a toddler into a boy under the tutelage you have arranged. Your rule is steady, and every evening, after the affairs of state are done, after the masks have been put away, it is Li Lianying who quietly enters your private chambers. He brings you your final cup of tea for the night, adjusts the lamps and asks, "Was today a difficult day, venerable ancestor?" And you look at his familiar face, unhandsome but etched with a deep and genuine concern, and you tell him the truth. In a world of masks, a single face that shows you only truth is the most precious treasure of all. Time, once again, forces a change of season in your life. Your nephew, the boy you placed on the throne, is now a young man. The Guangxu emperor has come of age, and so, with great public ceremony, you announce your retirement. You will retreat to the magnificent new summer palace, rebuilt at great expense, a testament to your enduring power, to live out your days in tranquil contemplation. You formally hand the reins of government to your adopted son. The court watches as you, for the second time in your life, step away from the throne. But it is, at best, a semi-retirement. You leave behind a network of officials whose loyalty is to you alone. Your confidant, Li Lianying, remains at court, your eyes and ears. Every significant decision, every key appointment is still quietly brought to you for your approval. You have not relinquished power. You have merely lengthened the leash. You believe it is a wise compromise, a way to let him feel like an emperor while you ensure the stability of the dynasty. You watch him closely. He is not like your own son. There is no taste for wine or cheap thrills in him. He is a quiet, intense, and deeply studious young man. The education you so carefully provided for him has made him a scholar. He devours books on history and, to your growing concern, translations of Western texts on science and government. He has a powerful sense of duty, but it is fused with a dangerous, untested idealism. He dreams of making China strong, of restoring its glory, but he has no patience. He sees the slow, creaking pace of your government not as careful prudence, but as stubborn stagnation. The spark that ignites his idealism into a raging fire comes from the sea. In 1895, the nation is rocked by a swift and humiliating defeat in a war with Japan. A nation of dwarf pirates, as the old guard contemptuously called them, which had modernized its military with terrifying speed. The defeat is a national trauma. For the young emperor, it is the ultimate proof that your cautious, incremental reforms are not enough. He believes that radical, sweeping change is the only thing that can save China from being carved up by foreign powers. He soon falls under the spell of a brilliant, charismatic, and dangerously radical scholar named Kang Youwei. Kang and his circle of reformers are men in a hurry. They see China's salvation in a complete, overnight transformation, modelled on Meiji Japan or Petrine Russia. They meet with the emperor in secret, feeding his idealism, stoking his resentment of your lingering control, and convincing him that he, and he alone, can be the sage king who saves the dynasty. In the summer of 1898, the emperor strikes. Convinced of his destiny, he unleashes what will become known as the 100 Days Reform. From the Dragon Throne, he issues a breathtaking torrent of edicts, more than 40 of them in just over 3 months. He calls for a complete overhaul of the state, a modern university in Beijing, a patent office, a constitutional monarchy, a national budget. He orders the military to be retrained and re-equipped along Western lines. And most dangerously, he takes an axe to the very root of the court's power structure. He orders the abolition of dozens of useless government posts, sinecures that had provided generations of Manchu nobles with an iron rice bowl. A lifetime of pay for no work. This is not just a reform. It is a declaration of war on the entire establishment. From your tranquil vantage point at the Summer Palace, you watch the chaos unfold. The court is in an uproar. The officials you have known for decades, the pillars of your conservative government, are terrified and furious. They flood your palace with secret petitions, begging you to intervene, to save them from the mad boy on the throne and his bewitching advisor, Kang Youwei. They see their entire world, a system of tradition and privilege thousands of years old, being dismantled overnight. The reformers know their time is short. They know that you are the ultimate obstacle, the final boss in their quest for a new China. As long as you are free, their revolution is in peril. In a final, desperate gamble, the emperor and his advisors devise a plan to neutralize you. He summons a rising military commander named Yuan Shikai to a secret audience. He orders Yuan to march his modern army to the Summer Palace, surround it, and ensure that you cannot interfere. He is, in effect, ordering your imprisonment. But Yuan Shikai is, above all else, a survivor and an opportunist. He listens to the emperor's frantic order, bows, and agrees. Then he promptly boards a train, not for the Summer Palace, but for the city of Tianjin, where your most powerful and loyal military commander, Ronglu, is stationed. There, Yuan lays the entire plot bare. It's a stunning betrayal of the emperor, and perhaps the shrewdest career move of his life. The news travels to you by the fastest horse, your adopted son, the boy you placed on the throne and groomed for power. He has tried to raise an army against you. The moment you hear it, any lingering affection you might have felt for him turns to ice. There is no grief this time, as there was with your own son. There is only the cold, clear fire of betrayal and the instinct for political survival. Your response is immediate and devastating. You board your imperial barge and travel with all speed back to the Forbidden City. You enter the palace not as a retiree, but as its undisputed master. You stride, unannounced, into the emperor's study. He looks up and sees you standing there, your face a mask of cold fury, and all the colour drains from his. He knows. He has gambled everything and lost. No words are needed. Your presence, and the knowledge in your eyes, is his entire condemnation. Within hours, a new edict is issued, written by you, but signed in his name. It announces that the emperor is suffering from a grave illness and has implored you, his wise and benevolent mother, to resume the regency and guide the empire through this period of instability. It is a fiction so complete, so absolute, that no one dares question it. The 100 Days Reform is over. All the radical edicts are rescinded. Warrants are issued for the arrest of Kang Yue and his circle. 6 of the key reformers are captured and summarily executed. The emperor himself is quietly escorted to the Ocean Terrace, a small, isolated palace on an island within the Forbidden City's southern lake, connected to the world by a single, heavily guarded drawbridge. He is a prisoner in a gilded cage. You stand on the shore, looking across the water at his lonely island prison. You have won. Your power is restored, absolute and unquestioned. But you have broken another emperor, another sun. You have crushed a dream of a new China because you believed it would destroy the old one. Can a tree that is 1,000 years old be straightened in a single season? You believe you know the answer, but the silence from the island across the water feels like its own kind of judgment. The new century dawns, but inside the Forbidden City, time seems to have stopped. Your power is absolute, unquestioned. The edicts flow from your chambers. The government runs on the tracks you laid down decades ago, and no one dares to challenge the will of the old Buddha, as the court has nicknamed you. But your victory is a solitary one. The palace, once a stage for your ambition, now feels like an opulent and silent tomb, a gilded cage of your own masterful construction. Its vast courtyards echo with the ghosts of everyone you have outlasted. On clear days, from a high terrace, you can sometimes see a lone, stooped figure walking the perimeter of the island on the South Lake. It is the Guangxu Emperor, your prisoner. He has not spoken to you in years. He is a living ghost, a constant, silent reproach, a reminder of the bright, idealistic future you felt compelled to crush. You have provided him with every material comfort, but you have taken his world. The space between your palace and his island is only a few 100 feet of water, but it is the widest and most impassable gulf in your empire. In your old age, you find yourself drawn to the very Western novelties you once viewed with such suspicion. You allow a telephone to be installed. You even ride in a motorcar, though you insist the driver dress as a traditional outrider and prostrate himself before starting the engine. Your greatest fascination, however, is with photography. You commission a court photographer and pose for a series of stunning, elaborate portraits. In some, you are the stern, powerful matriarch of the nation. In others, you dress in the ornate costume of Guanyin, the bodhisattva of mercy, attended by Li Lianying and other eunuchs dressed as acolytes. It is a strange and revealing act, the ruthless ruler of millions posing as the goddess of compassion. It's as if you are trying on different versions of your own history, trying to see which one fits. The final great crisis of your reign comes not from within the palace walls, but from the fields and villages of northern China. A peasant movement, the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists, or Boxers, rises in a violent, mystical fury against the growing influence of foreigners and Christians. In a moment of breathtaking miscalculation, born of decades of simmering resentment against the Western powers, you and the most conservative Manchu nobles decide to back them. You declare war on 8 foreign nations simultaneously. It is the desperate, final gamble of a dynasty that feels it has nothing left to lose. The gamble is a catastrophe. The foreign powers, far from being driven into the sea by the Boxers' supposed magic, assemble an international army. They march on Beijing with terrifying efficiency. And so, in the summer of 1900, for the second time in your long life, you are forced to flee your capital. The flight is a frantic, humiliating scramble. Disguised as a simple peasant woman in a rough cotton tunic, you escape the city in a common cart, dragging the silent, grim-faced Guangxu emperor along with you. It is a painful echo of the flight from the summer palace 40 years earlier, a bitter lesson learned twice in one lifetime. When you finally return many months later, it is to a capital defiled. Foreign soldiers patrol the streets of your city and occupy the sacred halls of the Forbidden City itself. You are forced to accept a peace treaty, the Boxer Protocol, that imposes a staggering indemnity on your people, a debt that will cripple China for generations. You are still the Empress Dowager, but you are now the ruler of a broken and subjugated nation. The final years are quiet. The great political battles are over. Your days are filled with routine, with theatre performances, with the placid surface of a court that has no real power left. You spend long hours reflecting, your mind drifting back through the decades. You see yourself as that 16-year-old girl stepping through the gates for the first time, full of fear and a secret, iron-hard will. You see the weary face of your husband, the joyful cries at the birth of your son, the triumph of your first coup, the heartbreaking rebellion of the boy you lost, the crushing of the boy you imprisoned. You survived it all. You held it all together. But was it all for this? To be the last person to know how to lock the doors of a dying palace? In the late autumn of 1908, you feel a familiar chill, one that no heated stove or silk shawl can warm. You know your time is ending. And in a final chilling act of control, the last great mystery of your reign unfolds. On November 14th, the Guangxu Emperor, your prisoner for a decade, dies suddenly on his island. The official cause is given as a long-standing kidney ailment. But for the rest of history, rumours will persist that you, knowing you were dying, could not bear the thought of him outliving you and undoing your life's work. They say you sent a final, fatal gift to his island prison, a bowl of yogurt laced with poison. Your own end comes just one day later. On your deathbed, with your last reserves of strength, you perform one final act of state. You name your 3-year-old grandnephew, Puyi, as the next emperor. You have secured the succession, ensuring the throne will pass as you command. Then, on November 15th, 1908, you close your eyes. Your reign, the longest and most dominant in the history of the Qing dynasty, is over. You leave behind a broken empire, a child on the throne, and a legacy so complex, so full of triumph and tragedy, that it will be debated for all time. And so, our long story comes to its final, gentle close. The great heavy gates of the Forbidden City swing shut, and the lanterns that once illuminated a world of intrigue and ambition now begin to dim one by one. Let the heavy, leather-bound book of history fall closed now, its gilded pages filled with the whispers of an empress who held a world in her hands. The echoes of her footsteps fade into the stillness of the past, becoming as soft and distant as the chime of a faraway bell. All that is left in this quiet, sleeping world is the gentle dark around you. There are no more plots to unravel, no more thrones to win or lose. There is only the soft, steady rhythm of your own breath, a gentle tide pulling you away from the shores of waking thought and out into the deep, calm ocean of your dreams. Let the last whispers of history dissolve into the peace of this moment, as you drift now, easily and effortlessly, toward a deep and restful sleep.